We like to start things on time, so it's 11 o'clock, and my name's Patricia Cardona. I'm one of the co-founders of the Cosmic Mystery School. My husband, Daniel, right there, is the other co-founder of it. And I'm a fire priestess trained in the Mayan manner, so this is the headband that I wear when I'm doing my work and my training. And in the middle symbol on the headband is the symbol of our school, the Cosmic Mystery School. And I've got it sitting here in front here by this crystal skull, too. And what it symbolizes is the Milky Way galaxy and then the sun, the great central sun, and our sun, our physical sun. The symbols on the other two sides are the symbols of our teacher, our Mayan elder Humbatzman. Those are his symbols. So when we do the work as a fire priestess, we have specific things we wear and do, and specific ways we're taught to do things to try to help with the healing energy and transmitting powerful frequencies. Okay, so we started the Cosmic Mystery School in 1996 with Mayan elder Humbatzman, who lived in Yucatan, Mexico, in Merida, outside the state of Merida, and he passed in 2016, but his son Cesar is still running the school and the area down there, and we still work with Cesar and help contribute to the spiritual process there. In Mexico, the government doesn't allow the Maya to do ceremony at the great sites that are there. You know, there are thousands of pyramid sites in Mexico, and the Mexican government doesn't allow the Maya, for the most part, to overtly do ceremony in those sites. So Humbatzman and the mystery schools build an individual sacred site together where we could do ceremony. And sometimes on the sly, kind of, you can do ceremony in some of the sites if you're quiet enough about it, or are away from Ina, which is the guards of the sacred sites, right? So we've been working with these energies and sites and training with our elders in Mexico, and we're going to go again in February to train with the elder that we're working with down there now. And we get to meet some other indigenous Maya that we haven't met before, and be down in the very heart of Mexico, down by Palenque and Villahermosa, and places in the mountains, and with beautiful sacred waterfalls and all kinds of incredible jungle energy, and just really amazing, powerful energy in sacred sites. And my husband and I have traveled the world over visiting sacred sites around the world because we understood that there was a huge amount of frequency and energy at these places. And in order to access that frequency and energy, it was very important to be in those places. And what we learned from our Mayan elder was to do ceremony in those places, because those places were built by whoever the elders were that built those places. You know, in Mexico, it may have been the Maya, it may have been a very ancient race of people before them, and one civilization comes and builds on the sites of another civilization, because they recognize the energy and the frequency and the power there, and they want to take that into their cultures, into their ceremonial practices, and build on that and work with that and learn to be those frequencies. So we see this all over the world. And most recently, last July, we took a group to Montana, which we had never heard of this until a couple years ago. There's actually an incredible megalithic civilization in Montana that was so ancient, it predates the Maya, it predates a lot of other places around the world. We don't know if it was Lemurian, or if some other people talked about the builder race, the great builder race, you know, but some ancient people, and it was pre-flood, so that's finding these places, they're very recognizable. I think my husband's going to show some pictures of that, but very recognizable of that these stone sites were cut and placed and they're not natural, just occurred out of nature. Okay, so you're going to see some examples of that. And we've seen this around the world. The pyramid culture, the megalithic stone site cultures, they're around the world. We visited Karnak in France, which was a megalithic culture that made miles and rows of these enormous tons and tons and tons stones. In the Maya lands, they build these huge pyramids, you know, and in Guatemala, you know, there's thousands and thousands, and they try to say those civilizations only existed for 2,000 years. Can you build, how many thousands of pyramids can you build in 2,000 years? Thousands and thousands and thousands of pyramids. So it's a lie. Those cultures are so much older, and they're still discovering, of course, more and more of them in the jungles. They come out of the jungles, they find these places, and so it's continuous. And we were just in Egypt. We just got back in October. And we took our group to Egypt, and there's this incredible company we work with there and had an amazing experience. This is our second time there. And we were able to go deeper into the knowledge because the first time we were such newbies that even though we'd seen some of the places, you know, on TV or in books all our life in Egypt, right? Being there and absorbing the energy this time was our second time, so we were much more ready for it, and we had much stronger experiences. We were inside the Great Pyramid, and we were toning and doing all kinds of meditation and work inside there. And we had the vibrations and the beauty. I don't even know how, you would have thought that our group, there were 16 of us, you would have thought that our group had been practicing together for years. I mean, the beautiful sound and vibration we created was tremendous. It was a tremendous gift to each of us. We'd like look at each other and go like, wow, this is great, this is really cool. And then the sound of it, here we are inside the king's chamber, right? And we're vibrating and toning, and this beautiful sounds are coming out. And the pyramid received those sounds and sent them into the land, and a very odd thing happened that we weren't expecting. During our trip, we had rain. It rained so hard that the streets of Cairo were flash flooded everywhere, and we were coming back from, we had just arrived on a flight from it. We take this boat down the Nile River for about 10 days, and then we were flying back, and we were at the airport, and then they this tremendous rainstorm, which we do believe we helped create, because of the land receiving the incredible vibration and toning and energy we got to do in the Great Pyramid and other places, because it rains like 6 days out of the year. 6 days out of the year in Egypt. That's it. And this was a torrential downpour. The streets were so flooded. It's only about a half an hour drive from our hotel to the airport. And it took our driver, the bus that was trying to pick us up, he was stuck in traffic 5 hours trying to get to us. That luckily we weren't waiting 5 hours, but he was stuck in traffic for 5 hours trying to get to us because Cairo's not set up for rain. They don't have the kind of sewer systems and things that we have, you know, because we have rain here all the time. So we have everything set up. They don't. And so the streets were flooded. And the very interesting thing that occurred was, I think that part of our job there this trip was to help bring cleansing energy. And so everything was so much fresher and cleaner for the rest of our trip then, because everything was cleansed, and that's what happens, you know. And I was telling
Kathy?
Yes, Kathy. I was going Francis.
Oh, yeah.
Kathy Francis. I was telling Kathy Francis, whom I know from a long time ago, that we did a Crystal Skull conference recently in Chicago, and part of it was there's a place called the Golden Pyramid in Chicago, which I'd never heard of until our friend put on this conference and asked us to come speak. And anyways, there was supposed to be a rainstorm there, but the ceremony that they had decided to do to help the Golden Pyramid and the other energies was a water ceremony. And we were involved in it and other people, but we weren't the ones who had set it up. And whenever this is a warning, if you're ever going to do a prayer, a meditation, a ceremony, a healing, set your intention. Set your intention first for what you want. Because what we ended up with there was a torrential rainstorm after we did that beautiful water ceremony. A torrential rainstorm there too, which they didn't really need in Chicago at that point in time. They didn't really need that rainstorm, and it was coming anyway, but it didn't need to be torrential, and it was torrential. So you just have to be careful what you're setting up, because you may get more than you expected to get, okay? This crystal skull right here is an ancient crystal skull. It was brought from Tibet with 12 other crystal skulls. So it's one of 13 crystal skulls brought from Tibet from a cave where this antiquities dealer found them back in, well, I don't know where he found them, but he brought them to the United States in 1999. And this one belonged to our elder, Humbatsman. He gifted our elder, Humbatsman, with this beautiful skull because he felt guilty that he ended up selling all the rest of them around the world. You know, broke them up and ended up selling all the rest of them around the world. I don't know how much he sold them for, but he gifted this one to our teacher. And our teacher passed in 2016, and we were the people, my husband and I were the people who were helping him and help promote the Maya and understanding and really working in that knowledge. And so we received the crystal skull and his salastun, which is his energy healing stone, his crystal energy healing stone. So we received that energy to help carry on the teachings. When we met him in 1996, he asked us to start the Cosmic Mystery School to bring this energy and information of the Maya and help spread it around the world. He knew it was important, and we said, okay. And so ever since then, we've been going to all these places, studying and bringing in the energy and learning to work with the energy and promote these teachings. And what we found was, as I said, there are megalithic sites around the world. There were ancient megalithic cultures that are so far back in time, we can't even imagine. You know, 10,000, 20,000, you know, 100,000 years ago, there were cultures. They're discovering things and finally bringing them to us, finally bringing that information out in public, that it's true. The whole thing didn't just start 2,000 years ago or something like that. These cultures, these civilizations, these megalithic sites were here so many thousand, and cultures have gone, come and gone, come and gone, come and gone, come and gone. Fortunate or unfortunate, it is the history of the world. The Lemurians, the Mu, you know, the Atlanteans, you know, the Maya, all these people and places and things have come and gone, and remnants of these civilizations still exist around the world. And evidence of them is coming to light all the time. Like I said, we were in Montana. We had never heard of this before. There's this beautiful lady there who has worked on bringing this information to the world. She's discovered so many incredible megalithic sites. There was an ancient civilization there so long ago. I mean, it's profound. I think you're going to show some pictures of that. My husband's going to show some pictures of that. So we had the good fortune. And when I went to this wall there in July and finally got to touch this wall that belonged to this megalithic culture, oh, my heart just, oh, I can't even tell you. I was in like rapture, and the energy flowing off of that wall, this incredible wall they made. These stones are like tons and tons and tons in this wall, stacked up, you know, precisely with no mortar, no anything. And we're not talking about Sacsayhuaman in Peru, which we're going there 2020 in October with our teacher from Peru, where we've been many times. We're not talking about Sacsayhuaman. We're talking about Montana, USA. Same thing. And there are similarities in those walls and other places that we've seen in Montana that are the same culture that built the most ancient parts in Peru was this same culture. There they were in Peru, there they were in Montana, who knows where all over the world they were. But there are similar things on different of the hugest stones. There's 6 monoliths that are the hugest stones, and they have these particular bumps coming out of them. You find those same bumps and what they were used for, maybe for sound vibration and healing. You know, you can make up whatever story you want because nobody knows the true history, right? But so I think it was the same culture. I do believe it. Now I'm going to send you some energy here, right?
What does the word megalithic even mean?
Megalithic. Well, it means it weighs tons and tons and tons. Oh. It's been, usually they've been cut. The stones have been cut generally and placed somewhere, and how they did that, good luck. I'd like to see you do that, right? Take this.
It's referencing the stones.
Yes.
Mega means like grande.
Yeah.
Big.
Grande.
We got that.
Big.
Yeah.
And then lithic is stone.
Yeah.
Ah.
Lithic is stone.
So, okay.
Right. Any other questions right now? Okay.
Where in Montana was that?
Huh?
Where in Montana?
It's near Helena.
Okay.
It's near Helena. You can't find them on your own, though. You'd have to, if somebody's interested, I can put you in connection with a teacher there, and we're going to be taking a group there again. I just don't have that set up yet, because it's profound, and it's so thrilling to find it here in the United States now. You know, we travel the world, and then we're finding the same things here, and it's just a blast, right?
Actually, I do have a question. What are your thoughts on naturally occurring stone formations like Sedona? I mean, what are your thoughts on a place like that?
It's there. We've been to Sedona. We've worked in Sedona. In 2011 we helped Humboldt's men do the pilgrimage across the United States, which went from New York to LA, and Sedona was one of the places because he was working with Melchizedek, and so I was talking to Drubalo, and we set up that whole thing and ran it across the United States to do a ceremony at these special sacred sites. And here in Ohio, we were responsible for that, and we did it at Serpent Mound. Okay, yeah. And we had over 2,000 people there. It was so funny. But we brought him there, and they weren't going to let us in because nobody expected 2,000 people. And the parking, we're teaching it. He was teaching a seminar. We were all teaching a seminar, and when we came to the Serpent Mound, there was nowhere. You can't park 2,000. Or how many? 100,000. I mean, 1,000 cars at the Serpent Mound. It doesn't have the place to do it. So some nice farmer had opened up his field and let people park in his field and all this kind of stuff. And so, anyways, they weren't going to let us in, and we said, they're all here because of him. You have to let us in. So, anyways, but it's so funny because the funny part I'm telling you is he looked at that crowd and he said, there's about 2,000 people here. And we're like, oh, that's a sum up quick, because he was so used to teaching to large groups and small groups and all kinds of groups and sharing his wisdom and knowledge that he could sum it up in a minute. And he got that, and the park ranger at the time there was frantic because people were climbing on the mountain and they weren't supposed to and everything. He immediately, luckily some people I know, one who's passed now, but had brought a microphone with him because you didn't really have electricity to hook it up to. But he had this little battery thing, and we got on top of. There's a little ladder there. We got on top of the ladder, and Humboldt's organized everybody immediately. It was fast. It was great, and they listened to him because they'd come to hear him anyways, right? So we organized people, and we had this beautiful ceremony there. And a rainbow came in the sky, and a little bit of rain. The raindrops were like this size, and rainbows were going through them. Later a serpent cloud came through the sky. I mean, I'm not kidding you. It was awesome. It was wonderful, and I was like so happy. Yes. You were there? Okay, all right. Yay, you were there? All right, yes. It was wonderful. Okay, so now I want to give you some energy, okay? I can't light copal here, which is the sacred Mayan resin that we use because we're in a building and it's a convention center and we're not allowed to do that, right? But because everything in life is about relationships, my relationships with these sacred sites, my relationships with the resin of the copal, my relationships with the people I work with, my relationships with Father Sky, Mother Earth, Father Sun, Mother Water, all these things. It's about our relationship with them. That's how we can go to these places and gain power and energy as they trust us and know what our intentions are. Okay? So, even though I can't light copal, I'm going to help cleanse you and clear you. Half the problems and illnesses in life are due to our bodies, minds, and spirits getting dirty. Okay, with all the things in the world and going on around us, okay? So the copal is an incredible resin from the Mayan lands. It's beautiful. It makes up this beautiful white smoke and smudge, and it's very cleansing. They use it for ceremonies, for giving gifts to the gods, and for cleansing people and healing them and all that. So I'm going to send the copal through you. All you have to do is receive and think of letting go, okay? Setting my intentions, calling on the higher forces, I'm calling on the higher forces. Please seal this room and this space to any known negativity and align it to the light and love of God, the light and love of God. On all levels, I call upon you to bring in that energy that will be the most cleansing and healing for the people who are here right now. Calling on the beautiful copal now to come in now and blow through this room into people's body, minds, and spirits. The causal body, the physical body, the emotional body, the electric body, the energy body, the auric field, completely cleansing and clearing. Bringing it in now. Excuse me. go into their bodies, minds, and spirits, into the causal body, the physical body, the emotional body, the electric body, the energy body, the auric field. Cleansing, clearing, cleansing, clearing, cleansing, clearing, cleansing, clearing. All right. Everybody get a good dose of the kapal? Feel it in the back of the room? I felt like I was getting you back there. Okay, good. Okay. So, different gifts came at different times, many of them, and I can't obviously show you all the gifts or give you all the gifts today. But I'm going to bring you another gift for you. And this one is called, the gift of fire. And the gift of fire is going to go through your body, mind, and spirits now, helping burn away all the resins of things that need to be released now. So just think of releasing, okay? And blow it through now, calling upon the gift of fire to blow through now, to release all the negativity and take it into the great central sun, into the great central sun. Going through now. Heat up a little bit on that one. Pretty hot. Okay. All right. And then the final gift I'm going to give you today is the gift of the golden liquid light. And this is a healing gift. So we went with two cleansing gifts, and now we're going to give a healing gift. Okay? So this, really think about receiving this beautiful energy. This comes down from the cosmos, this beautiful golden liquid light. I'm asking it to flow down from the cosmos now, the beautiful golden liquid light. Pouring it into this room now, into these people's bodies, minds, and spirit. Golden liquid light, pouring into their crown chakras, filling their crown chakras, flowing through their bodies, into their causal body, their physical body, their emotional body, their electrical body, their energy body, their auric field. Totally saturated with golden liquid light, totally saturated with golden liquid light, totally saturated with golden liquid light. Healing, healing, loving, loving, healing, healing, loving, loving. Saturating, 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 saturating. Golden liquid light, golden liquid light, golden liquid light, golden liquid light. Dwell in their hearts. Dwell in their minds. Dwell in their spirits. Surround them and fill them and protect them. On all levels of being. All your sacred hearts filled with the golden liquid light of the angelic forces. Love and light, love and light, love and light, love and light. Thank you. Okay, your turn. This is Dr. Cardona.
Daniel. I'm going to show some pictures of some megalithic sites. Again, mega meaning grande, big, and lithic meaning stone. Now I could stand up here and show you a bunch of pictures, but there is a point to this. And when we're done, well, when I'm done showing the pictures, we'll do a little energy exercise. Just out of curiosity, how many people work with some kind of energy exercise every day, or at least on a regular basis? Okay, good, quite a few. All right. Energy secrets of the megalithic monuments. All right, this is located at Chichen Itza, and you can see along one of the staircases there, these 7 triangles that occurs only on the equinox. And you don't get a good sense of the size because of the perspective from the camera, but this is very famous. And when you're there at that moment, you can feel a tremendous amount of energy in your legs. And that's the reason people go there. Now, where this camera is, if it were back maybe another quarter mile, there's often between 30 to 60 to 90,000 people, depending on the weather and so forth. This gives you a sense of how big that pyramid really is. So it's quite big. This was in the old days when you could climb up the pyramid. And these pyramids are activated by people. So people go to these places because you can feel a tremendous amount of energy. We're going to talk about how we can get our mind to do that after I show you a few pictures. When we as a group arrange these trips, and Patricia does about 90% of the work. She has, when she talks about forming a relationship with Copal and other incense and the divas and the weather and so forth, she also really forms a lot of relationships with people. And so this is Patricia opening the gate to Giza, the Great Pyramid, and Sphinx. And our group is, we have the whole place to ourselves. So Patricia is opening up the gate. This is the Sphinx. Again, nobody else is there because our group is there all by ourselves. And when you're there, you can see that the Sphinx and the way it looks is much older than the pyramids. So as Patricia said, people find these sites, they're very powerful energetically, and they build a monument. And then another group, maybe 10, 20,000 years later, after some big earth catastrophe, builds another monument, and so and so. And underneath all of this, there are more. This is my mother. She went on this trip. This is 2017. She's actually 80 years old right there. 80 years young. And so she's taking pictures, of course. Like her, I guess I know where I get the photographic bug. But the reason also for this picture is to show the water erosion. This is the interior of the Sphinx. The last time it rained that much, when it was tropical, was about 11,600 years. So these places are very old. The Sphinx is much older than the Great Pyramids. This is our group in Egypt. This is the Dendera temple. So a completely different set of temples. This is amazing. This is our group. We have the place to ourselves here again. Tremendous number of murals inside. The Egyptian temples are just beautiful. I mean, they are so precisely done. They look like the place was machined. No tools have ever been found. This we cannot show on the internet and so forth. This is Sekhmet. She's a warrior goddess, also a healing goddess, and we were allowed inside this particular room to see Sekhmet. This is a temple of Isis. And before we do an energy exercise, just get us, part of the reason for showing you these is because even in photography you can feel some of the energy. This is a temple of Isis on this island of Philae. And as you walk in, there's a temple. Patricia led a ceremony inside the temple of Isis. And you can just feel. This was just taken with an iPhone, this particular one. And just get a sense. We'll talk more about how to feel the energy at places in a few minutes. We have 5 senses. We have 5 physical senses and 5 etheric senses. So I can feel my clothes, but I have a whole nother set of senses, one of which I can feel this energy. We're going to talk about imagination and how to get that to work. How did he get in there? This is Walter, 16 months. This is our grandson. And he's going to start with books very early. I think he's going to be a bookworm also, like his mom, dad, and grandpa. Okay, this is in Peru. This is Moray. This is down in a valley, and the valley is 11,500 feet above sea level. And Patricia and I, we've talked about energy. We've both had experiences where we kind of had like flu symptoms afterwards because the energy is so powerful. And what that means is that our nervous system is reorganizing to allow more energy. So when we go to high energy places, our nervous system has to change to evolve to take advantage and benefit from all of this. So it's not unusual when you get an energy healing to have a headache, flu symptoms. It's nothing bad. Your nervous system is reorganizing. I think the last time we were there, we didn't have as much of that, but the first time, I mean, we were not feeling so good. This is the 6 monoliths on top of Ollantaytambo. And this is about 10,500 feet. Each one of these weighs more than 50 tons. When you go up next to them, it's like freshly cut marble. It's so smooth. Don't know what kind of tools they used. It seemed to be difficult enough, but they actually quarried them from a place about 50 kilometers away, which is about 30 miles. And then from that mountain down into a valley and then brought them up here. That's in Peru. Very powerful energetically. We did that for a reason, obviously. This is Machu Picchu. It's about 9,000 feet. And I'm showing you this picture because it's obviously a famous picture, but you can see the structures there. The resolution isn't so good on this wall here, but you know, there are rocks about this big stacked up. And so apparently the Inca built this, right? But when you get closer, you walk around the place, you see this. Completely different architecture. And I'm going to have so many photos, but much more massive stones, finely cut. And this is usually underneath the small little stones with the structures. And the Inca people, when you ask them who built this, they don't know. They have no oral history explaining who built this. This is a wall at Machu Picchu. Completely different architecture from the little stones that were stacked up to make these rooms. There had to be a reason why people did this. They didn't make it easy on themselves. This is Sacsayhuaman, another place, and it's 12,000 feet, also in a valley. You can't quite see it, but you can start to see some mountains on the left side there. So you're in this valley, you're at 12,000 feet, and then you see higher mountains in the distance. Those are the Andes. You can see the big rocks. You know, they weigh anywhere from, I mean, in this particular area, anywhere from 10 to 50 tons, and they're cut in a certain way. They all fit together like puzzle pieces. So this isn't also in Peru, outside of Cusco. It's about 30 minutes from Cusco. So get a good look at this of how these things are built and what they look like. This is Montana.
Wow.
And the woman, Julie Ryder, who is responsible for actually helping us find this place, and she's mapping them out. Literally, she's mapping them out on a piece of paper with GPS coordinates, and hardly anybody knows about this place. She had someone use ground-penetrating radar. Some of these stones weigh 5,000 tons. You can see some of the stones. This is another perspective down further into the picture. They get bigger and they're massive.
And they're claiming that this is a natural formation?
Some people are claiming it is, but obviously it isn't. I mean, nature's pretty interesting if you
Which
read
people,
this.
like Ryder?
Nobody knows.
No, who's claiming? The park rangers are claiming it's natural.
Yes. So Julie Ryder is trying to map out as many things as possible so that there's always a risk that the powers that be can rope it off and then do their own research. And you know, there's an Antiquities Act, and they can do kinds of strange things. So we've been there a couple of times. Our group has been, and it's just a beautiful setting. So this is about 50 miles outside of Helena, on the western part of Montana, just like in the foothills of the Rockies. Beautiful area. And this is about 5,000 feet altitude. So these are walls, and you can't see it. I have other pictures, but they're cut in these different shapes, polygonal shapes. They fit together like puzzle pieces, just like the ones in Peru. I mean, indistinguishable. The guy who used the ground-penetrating radars, Englishman, said that underneath are all kinds of rooms and so forth. And based on the depth and how long it takes for the Earth to sort of cover things up, underneath they're as old as 75,000 years, based on estimations of how long things get covered up. This is a dolmen, also in Montana. These particular structures are very famous in in Ireland. Big dolmen. And this is just one of several that we saw. This is not natural. You can't see it from here, but the top platform, those two rocks fit together perfectly. Some of the geologists said that this is impossible the way it was balanced to create naturally.
People are going to claim, great glaciers leaving the area. They're going to claim all kinds of, right?
Now, the interesting thing about these sites is when you're driving through some of the forests, and the way these roads are made, on one side of the road, you'll see just little stones, that are part of the terrain and so forth, and hills and grass and trees. Then on the other side are these huge boulders. 90% of them are just scattered. And then you see this. So obviously there was a big catastrophe. And Graham Hancock has written books on all of this. And there was what they call the Younger Dryst, younger like older, younger Dryst, meaning a dramatic change in the weather and climate, sudden change. And so apparently there was a big, huge meteor strike not too far from this, which then changed the weather and everything else, and probably explains why 90% of those stones are just thrown all over the place. And that looks natural, but if it was a meteor, then it was natural. But there are so many structures like that wall and these things, and bigger ones that we haven't had a chance to see, that most of it obviously was not natural. Yeah?
What was the name of the author that you just mentioned?
Graham Hancock.
Thank you.
Pretty famous guy. He writes, one of his friends was kidding him, he doesn't write books, he writes like cubes. I mean, the books are so thick, Tremendous brain.
What part of Ireland is that?
No, this is in Montana.
Oh, that's in Montana.
But they look like the dolmen and I'll show you one, in Ireland. Okay, this is another very powerful area. This is, the name of this is the Ferry Blend, and this is in the Isle of Skye, Scotland. And so people come here, so it isn't just Patricia and I and a few of our crazy friends who come here. You can't quite see them, but these are all these little altars that people have set up. Look like little rocks. I mean, it's beautiful, just an amazing place. Isle of Skye. It's not on any map. We found it by luck. I mean, we heard of the place, but we had to find it by luck. And this is the Colonists Stones, and this is the Isle of Lewis on the west side of Scotland. You have all these little islands. There's the Isle of Skye. This is the Isle of Lewis, and that's our group walking among the stones. I don't know that particular trip. I forgot the year, but we saw, 30 rainbows that trip? Yeah. I mean, it was just amazing. That's our cat family. I don't know how they lined up like that, but I mean, they're not statues. They're actually little live cats waiting for dinner.
That's not naturally occurring.
Tiger, Sammy, and Cleopatra. Tigers in front. Okay, this is in Ireland. So this is the Irish version of the dolmen. And in every continent, practically in every country, there are pyramids and temples, megalithic temples, including Antarctica. And so people spent a lot of time using very big rocks and planting them in all the high energy places. This is in County Clare, Ireland. This one they date back, you can't date stone. So what the archaeologists in their brilliance, they travel around here, and if they find some pottery or some other kinds of things around it, then they date that. And if those things are located there, then they assume that that's the age of that thing, which, I can see some shaking heads. That doesn't make any sense, really. But they have dated this at 4000 BC, so 6,000 years ago. So that's when somebody left some pottery and other kinds of trinkets there. No one knows how old this thing is. Probably much older than that. So we can say that it's as young as 6,000 years ago. And we don't know what's underneath because the Maya, we know that in the Mayan lands down in the Yucatan, every 52 years they rebuilt the structure or put another structure on it. And 52 is because the Pleiades, the constellation, takes 52 years to come back to the same spot. They mark off a particular spot. And so that was one of their calendars, the Pleiadian calendar. And so other areas of the world, they rebuilt and rebuilt. Everybody knows this one, Stonehenge in Wiltshire, England. At least 5,000 years ago, maybe. You can see some of the stones. In that center stone, you can see a little nib on top. So that's how they fit together. Now, some of the stones, they're sort of misshapen now, and it's made out of a kind of granite, and they quarried it and carried it 50 miles. But when you look at some of the stones that were not exposed to the weather, they're perfectly cut. So it's likely these are weather worn, and they were probably perfectly rectangular at some point. So we don't know how old this thing is.
I was there for some solstice, and about 50,000 of us were allowed in twice a year.
Wow.
Winter and summer.
Yeah.
It was a pristine sunrise, unbelievable here in the sky. And you realize the relationship of the whole plane around it. It had a mist over it.
Oh, yeah.
And the Druids did their ceremonies, and it was a blissful sunrise. 4 hours we were allowed to stay off the sun.
Yeah, it must have been really powerful. I can actually feel it when you're talking about it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Tell them the story.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. We have a friend, when we went a few years ago, he is actually a rocket scientist and works for the government, and that's all I can say about that. But anyway, he was really new to all these things, and we were walking in a similar kind of situation. Would have been the equinox for us, and it was cold and our feet were cold, and it's amazing how cold these places get. And it's morning and the sun isn't up yet, and we're walking, but the sun just starts coming up, and you can see it's the Stonehenge is silhouetted, against the background. And then almost he's up ahead maybe about 100 yards, and then he stopped and he's looking at his camera. And so we finally catch up to him, and he goes, oh no, I think I've broken my parents' camera. And so we go, well, let me see. And then we look at the camera, and the picture, I have never seen so many orbs in a photograph. I mean, it was unbelievable. And then, of course, he was really happy when we explained it to him, and of course, he shared it with us. But, I mean, it couldn't have happened to a better person. I mean, this is like mathematical rocket scientist. And all of a sudden, he experiences this great thing. Beautiful gift for him. This is Hunbat's Men, our teacher. We miss him terribly. He died in August 2016. Hunbat's Men. He is at a sacred site that he created. He's on this concrete platform. It's in the picture of a Mayan Cross. And he created that because over the years, the Mexican federal government wouldn't let us do ceremony at the sacred sites, which is really sacrilegious because that's what activates them. And so he built this. He bought the land and built this, and when we would gift him money, and other people would gift him money, whenever he made, literally every peso would go here. He'd go home with a bunch of pesos, and then we would see another building built on this land. So he did tremendous work. 2 years ago, I think. And they told Patricia they couldn't believe the effect of doing this as a group, because they had done it one-on-one with the teacher, which obviously is very magical. But when everybody is like-minded in meditation, it's very, very powerful. And so this is a better view of Lowell Bay that the Hunbats created. This is the Mayan Cross and the pyramidal structure in the background. The sun comes up. Sometimes it's cloudy. But that would have been a spring equinox. This is Patricia, obviously, receiving the lineage from Hunbat's Men's son about 3 months after Hunbat's death. So she traveled by herself to the Yucatan, and now she is carrying the lineage from Hunbatsman.
His son is not carrying the lineage?
Huh?
His son is not carrying the lineage?
He does other things. I mean, in the old days when the cameras were really big, you know, Mexico's hot. I mean, even in the spring, it's just unbelievably hot. And he's just lugging these cameras. So he was always there with his dad, but he didn't really take on the spiritual thing. But he's changed since his dad died, and I think he is now doing some talks, right? I mean, he has a tremendous library at home, all of Hunbats's teachings, and so I think that's going to change. But Patricia had worked so, I mean, how many, 20 years with Hunbats, and had done so much work and studied so hard and was able to create so many things that it was really, she was the obvious person, you know, that this would go to, in spite of all the hundreds and maybe even thousands of people that Hunbats worked with. So with energy, like I mentioned before, we have these 5 senses and we use them all the time. But we have these other senses, and we have multiple layers of these senses that you can train. When we see things moving out of the corner of our eye, etc., we're beginning to tap into that. When we walk into a sacred site, we can feel the chills, just like this gentleman here when he was talking about his trip. I could feel that experience. And I didn't believe in any of this. And I really thought that people were imagining all of this. And they are. It's total imagination. I'll explain what I mean. And so all these senses, if you see auras, you're beginning to tap into the parallel sense of these senses. So this word imagination is the way that you tap in. So our brain has all these capacities. So I can see all of you with my 5 senses. But then I can start to, when I start moving energy, the stronger that I imagine that I can feel this, that is the gateway to tap into this. Totally your imagination. One of the things that we do with students in the martial art that I'm studying now is Aikido. And they have this thing called ki, which is their word for energy. And there's this drill that we do. It's not practical, but it just changes your mind about everything. I'll rest my arm, like say, on somebody else standing in front of me on their shoulder, and then they will bend my arm, all right? And it's easy to do. If I weigh about 170, but if someone was weighed like 90 pounds, and I'm resting my arm on their shoulder, and then they just bend it, they can bend it easily. I mean, I can't hold 90 pounds with just these little muscles. But if I use my imagination, and I just picture my arm like a fire hose, and it's just shooting out water to that wall there, and that's all that I'm focused on, they can't bend my arm. And if you come and feel the muscles, they're all soft, but they can't bend my arm. Or I could imagine my arm as a big tree and it's just extending, you know, to that wall. Once I get past that, I could just imagine that I'm touching the wall. And it's total imagination, but they can't bend my arm. When we first start to do this, you know, especially with the newer students, once they realize that this is happening, they can't believe it, then they lose focus and then it bends. So it's a matter, so one of the reasons people will meditate is to strengthen their ability to focus. Like the basketball player who's on the free throw line, and regardless of what's going on, I mean, there are so many amazingly talented basketball players out there, but only a few of the professionals and the college level can get on that free throw line and make the basket consistently because of their focus, right? Tremendous amount of talent. There are probably better shooters out there who never get there because they can't maintain the focus with the crowd, right? So we can hold our arm, or we can imagine feeling this energy. Whether you believe this or not, but when baby Jesus was in this manger, the story is, the legend, whatever it is, talked about the 3 wise men coming, right? But the original word for the 3 wise men was magi. You've heard that. And then that comes from the Greek word magos or which means magic. And it's just interesting to me And I looked up the etymology or the root, the word history of the word imagination, and there is no connection that I could find. But it's really interesting that if you break up the word imagine, magi is in there. In fact, I, magi, and then N-E. Now in the Mayan languages, words break up, Mayan words break up, and they're very, they take you deeper inside the knowledge. So it's not, you know, I don't think that's a coincidence. So as we train our mind and we feel, you have to keep in mind that that is the gateway into feeling all these energies. So the healers who use energy to heal others, I think the phrase is, the primary difference between the healer and the rest of us is the power of their imagination. So you can sit there or stand, whatever you want to do, straighten your back. Posture is really important. We're going to move our hands up and down. Now that isn't enough. So now I want you to use your imagination and feel as if your hands are moving through some type of liquid and it's heavy. You can feel it. Then as you're going down, you could imagine like you're moving your hand through water. Feel that. Or cotton. Feel it. Keep everything relaxed. Tense muscles are the enemy of energy. So when you want to feel this, feel it. And relax the shoulders. Relax your legs. Sit up straight, but keep everything relaxed. And now when these hands go up, use your imagination so that's really heavy. Imagine that liquid being thicker and thicker. When you see someone doing Tai Chi and they look like they're really doing Tai Chi, this is what's going on. They're not just moving, but the teachers don't tell you this until much later. As you're coming down, whatever that is that you're feeling is thicker and thicker. But don't tense your muscles to move through it. So as it becomes thicker and we imagine this, we're becoming more in connection with this energy. So now use your imagination to gather. So we're gathering more around our hands. We're creating a ball in each hand. And imagine it getting warmer and heavier. And bring it back down. It's getting heavier. Those balls are getting heavier and warmer. It's getting more and more difficult. And now we're bringing it right to our center. We're going to combine these two balls to one ball. Right in front of where our belt buckle is. It's our center. Just a little bit below. Feel that pressure between your hands. Use that imagination. When it gets stronger, it'll actually push your hands apart a little bit. You can feel that. Feel that? It's pushing your hands apart a little bit. It's getting a little harder to compress. You can begin to see it if you focus. You can imagine any color you wish. And now, concentrate it. So your hands will be a little harder to bring together because of that pressure. And then slowly bring it inside your center, inside your body. Slowly bring it in. It's a bright light ball inside just below your belly button, your belt buckle, and imagine it getting brighter but smaller and smaller and brighter and brighter and smaller and more concentrated and brighter. Just hold it there for a minute. Hold it there for a minute. Seal it. Seal it. Close off your body. Hold that there and seal it. And take that home with you. Okay. All right. Have a wonderful day.